The room was quiet, in that way only serious fighters understand. Not silence, more like anticipation. The kind that sits on your chest and makes you aware of your breathing. A training hall somewhere in Southeast Asia, concrete floor, sweat-stained mats, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. On one side stood an Israeli close-quarters combat trainer, confident, composed, arms folded across a fitted black shirt. On the other side were a handful of Filipino martial artists, calm, relaxed, almost casual. Too casual, some might say. The Israeli trainer had built his reputation on real-world combat. Military background, urban warfare, knife defense drilled into muscle memory under stress, chaos, and fear. He had trained soldiers, law enforcement, and private security across continents. To him, most traditional martial arts were impractical relics. Beautiful, maybe, but outdated. And Filipino knife combat? He had laughed when he first heard about it. Too flashy, he'd said earlier that day. Too many movements. In real fights, you don't dance with blades. The Filipinos didn't argue. They never do at first. They listened. They nodded. They smiled. That smile would later be remembered. The cameras were there because this was meant to be educational, almost friendly. A cross-training session, an exchange of ideas. No rivalry, no ego, at least not officially. But underneath the politeness, something unspoken was building. A quiet tension between two philosophies shaped by very different histories. Israeli knife systems were forged in modern conflict. Short encounters, confined spaces, fast neutralization. Filipino blade arts were born centuries earlier, shaped by tribal warfare, colonization, resistance, and survival. In the Philippines, the blade was never optional. It was farming tool, weapon, symbol, and necessity. Long before firearms, the knife decided life and death. The trainer began with a demonstration. Controlled. Precise. He showed how to intercept a knife attack, redirect the arm, crash forward, end the threat decisively. His movements were efficient, stripped of excess. The kind of technique designed for chaos, not ceremony. He finished and looked at the Filipinos. "This is what works," he said. "Everything else is fantasy." One of the Filipino instructors stepped forward. Older, lean, eyes sharp but kind. He held a simple training blade, worn smooth from years of use. He didn't correct the trainer. He didn't debate him. He only asked one question. "May we show you something?" The trainer shrugged. "Of course." They started slow, very slow, almost boring. The Filipino moved lightly, blade low, body angled. No dramatic strikes, no spinning, just footwork, distance, timing. The Israeli trainer watched, unimpressed. Then the pace changed. What happened next is hard to explain to people who've never studied blades. It wasn't about speed alone. It was about pressure. Constant, intelligent pressure. The Filipino blade never stopped moving, not wildly, but purposefully. Every step forced a reaction. Every reaction created an opening. The Israeli trainer attempted to apply his techniques. Intercept, redirect, close in. But each time he reached for control, the blade wasn't where it was supposed to be. The angles were wrong, or rather, too right. Within seconds, the dynamic shifted. The trainer was no longer demonstrating. He was responding, adjusting, retreating. You could see it in his face, the first crack in certainty. Not fear, surprise. They reset, again, and again. Each time, the Filipino adjusted effortlessly. as if reading the trainer's intent before it fully formed. The blade work wasn't flashy. It was clinical, alive, like the knife itself understood where it needed to be. The cameras caught a moment that would later go viral in martial arts circles. The trainer paused, breathing harder now, and laughed. Not mockingly this time, but genuinely. "Okay," he said. "Do that again." This time, he attacked. What followed was not a fight, but a lesson unfolding in real time. The Filipino didn't overpower him, didn't rush him. He let the trainer come forward, then punished every commitment with precision. Wrist, forearm, thigh, shoulder, areas that would disable, not kill, but in real blades, would end everything fast. By the end, the Israeli trainer stood still, blade down, eyes wide. "If those were real knives," he said quietly, "I would already be bleeding out." No one cheered. No one gloated. The Filipino simply nodded. "This is why we don't mock," he replied. "We listen." As the day went on, the tone changed completely. The trainer asked questions, detailed ones, about footwork, about angles, about why Filipino systems emphasized flow instead of fixed sequences. The answer, again and again, came back to history. In the Philippines, blade encounters were not theoretical. They were sudden, close, often multiple attackers. You didn't know who was trained, who wasn't, who had a longer blade, or who had friends behind you. Systems like Kali, Eskrima, and Arnis evolved to survive uncertainty. They taught adaptability first, technique second. The Israeli trainer admitted something rare on camera. "In our system," he said, "we assume aggression. We assume chaos. But what I see here is something else. You assume intelligence. You assume the blade thinks." That sentence changed the room. They trained until evening, sweat-soaked, laughing now, trading drills, finding similarities instead of differences. The Israeli showed how his system handled weapon retention in crowds. The Filipinos showed how blade transitions worked when one hand failed. What stood out most wasn't who was better, but how incomplete each system was alone. At the end of the session, the trainer faced the camera directly. "I came here thinking I would expose tradition," he said. "Instead, tradition exposed me." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "If you dismiss Filipino knife combat," he continued, "you're not just underestimating a style, you're underestimating centuries of survival." The documentary ends not with a winner, but with respect. With a handshake that meant more than any trophy. With the quiet understanding that real combat knowledge doesn't shout, it endures. Because blades don't care about ego. They only respect truth. And that day, the truth cut deep.